Coming up, Oklahoma law enforcement arrests 3 top officials in the state's epic charter schools for multiple felony counts.
Plus, it may look quiet and mild to start the weekend now, but we're going to start heating up again today. We'll break down the forecast, the start of it at least, coming up.
And summertime means boating season. We've got some tips on how you and your family can stay safe while having fun in the sun.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's now 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's go to meteorologist Nick Kelly.
Well, we've been keeping an eye on some rain that was trying to scud our northern counties very early this morning, Tanya, but nothing for 7th and range line, at least as far as I could see and as far as the camera can see looking back to the north and west. But let's take it to the Skywatch storm tracker because we had some potent thunderstorms actually develop and continue across northern Kansas throughout the course of the night and very early this morning. And they've been primarily holding along the I-70 corridor and up northward. Otherwise, we're just trying to see if a couple of these showers, let me grab my John Madden telestrating tool here. We've got maybe a couple showers trying to sneak into our western counties away from the turnpike, and we've got another batch trying to clip Emporia. We'll see if any of those can try and clip our far northern and western counties within the next few hours. Otherwise, everyone's mild to start this morning out, mainly lower 70s, between 70 and 74. I'll tell you, Tanya, once we get past sunrise, it's going to be a quick warm up throughout the day. You can see on the planner 81 at 9 a.m., 91 by noon, and maybe the slimmest outside chance for a storm this afternoon, but it's mainly going to be hot with highs near 96. But thankfully, if you've been clamoring for a break from the heat, you're going to love what the 7-day forecast has to show when we get back to that in a bit.
That sounds good. I know we've been talking about how hot Friday and Saturday are going to be. I keep looking at the light at the end of the tunnel, though.
We're getting close to that light. I can tell you that for sure.
All right. Thanks, Nick. A Linn County, Kansas firefighter succumbs to injuries sustained while battling a blaze. On Monday, Linn County Rural Fire responded to a fire at the Carpenter Chiropractic Clinic in Pleasanton, Kansas. Firefighter Joshua Haynes, 35, suffered life-threatening injuries while fighting the blaze. An air ambulance flew Haynes to the University of Kansas Medical Center. Haynes succumbed to his injuries on Wednesday. Haynes served as a firefighter for 17 years. He leaves behind 4 children. Agencies from around the state and region are expressing their condolences. Now, the cause of the fire is under investigation and no word as of now on when services will be held. We'll update the story on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com as details become available. Oklahoma law officers arrest 3 top officials in the state's EPIC charter schools program on multiple felony charges. On Thursday, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation announced the arrest of EPIC charter school founders Ben Harris and David Cheney and former chief financial officer Josh Brook. They face a slew of charges, including embezzlement of state funds, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit a felony. The OSBI says their investigation began nearly a decade ago. Investigators claim the men were involved in a scheme that cost Oklahoma taxpayers more than $22 million. Over the past few weeks, the GRDA reported the deaths of 2 people, one at Grand Lake and another at Flint Creek. Now that the 4th of July is approaching, more boaters are expected to be out on the water in the coming weeks. With that, the GRDA has some tips for boaters to stay safe on the water. Among other things, they advise people to have experience with the boat they'll be driving.
Boating smart involves knowing something about the vessel you're going to be operating. You know, are you able to handle it? Have you controlled it? Know the speed? Use common sense, give the right of way to other boaters, you know, things like that. Watch out for other boaters on the water, boating smart.
Most importantly, the GRDA emphasizes wearing a life jacket. Our own Bronte Swarovski dives deeper into this story later in the show. Elected leaders in New York are vowing to continue the legal fight following Thursday's ruling from the Supreme Court, which struck down the state's gun law that required people to demonstrate a particular need in order to get a permit to carry a gun in public. The decision is expected to enable more people to legally carry guns on the streets of the nation's largest cities. Skylar Henry reports.
In what's being described as a major expansion of gun rights, the Supreme Court struck down a New York law that required a person to show a special need in order to get a permit to carry a gun in public.
I think it's very important, not just for New York, but for how other gun laws are going to be evaluated as well.
In the 6-3 conservative majority opinion, Justice Clarence Thomas wrote, the 2nd and 14th Amendments protect an individual's right to carry a handgun for self-defense outside the home.
My reaction is relief. And happiness that the lawful and legal gun owner of New York State is no longer going to be persecuted by laws that have nothing to do with the safety of the people.
The High Court's ruling comes as Congress works on new gun control legislation following a string of mass shootings and a spike in gun violence across the country.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking.
New York elected officials vowed not to give up.
We do not need people entering our subways, our restaurants, our movie theaters with concealed weapons. We don't need more guns on our streets.
We cannot allow New York to become the Wild Wild West.
The ruling is expected to impact similar laws in several states, including California and Massachusetts. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the Supreme Court.
President Biden said in a statement he was deeply disappointed by the ruling. Well, parents in Webb City got a little peace of mind along with a free meal for their child. The Webb City Farmers Market is offering free meals to kids during the summer. On Thursday, the Webb City Police Department also handed out free child identification kits. Kits include forms that parents can fill out with their child's physical characteristics and fingerprints. Those forms can then be turned in to authorities if the child goes missing.
Inside these kits, it's something that we've come up with. It's got the date, their name goes on there. When you open it up, it's got their fingerprints. It's got a place for their pictures. It's got all kinds of information in here that stays with the parents. We don't keep it, they keep it.
Webb City Farmers Market takes place at King Jack Park on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And we apologize if your reception is glitchy right now, but we are making progress in our More Power project. We started broadcasting from a lower temporary antenna while a crew installs a new, more technically advanced antenna at the top of our 1,000-foot tower. This is the final step in our More Power project. It'll allow some viewers who previously lost our signal to get us once again, and better than before. Now, in the meantime, you can always follow us digitally on our KOAM Plus app and check out our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. If you're hearing me right now, you probably can see us, but we need you to tell your friends that are having trouble.
Yeah, and of course, the KOAM Plus apps, all different ways to watch us. We're newscasts on YouTube, streaming all over the place. There are still many ways to watch us until we get the more powerful signal back in action. In the meantime, quick check your 7-day forecast. First look at it at the very least. It's just going to be hot once again today. We'll climb back to about 96 this afternoon. 98 for, I think, the hottest day of the 7-day stretch. But once I show you the cold front coming our way, we will see temperatures knocked back into the lower 80s for early next week. A much needed break from the heat.
All right, thanks, Dick. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, a champion wrestler steps onto the mat to host a clinic for some area girls. Plus, in 2021, the NCAA made a policy change which allowed athletes to make money from their image while competing for their school. And we want to know what you think about this policy change. And many families want to eat healthy, but the rising cost of food makes it difficult. Coming up, we've got tips on how to eat right without breaking the bank. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
In sports this morning, Pittsburgh High School hosting an all-girls wrestling clinic, and it's led by champion wrestler Nicole Moore. Moore is a U23 national champion and a two-time NAIA All-American at Baker University. On Thursday, she led around 25 local girls through a 3-hour clinic, an opportunity for these wrestlers to learn skills and techniques from a female role model.
I'm just really glad now that we have other girls that are coming out of Kansas and they're like, okay, this is possible. So when you look around, you see all these girls doing it and you see all these girls fighting for this, and I love that. The fact that I can get back now and share my love of the sport with these girls it's the best thing ever. I hope they picked up on 1 or 2 things that they really liked, but I also try to have a lot of fun when I come in and do camps. and share my love of wrestling with them. I think everyone left here with smiles on their face. They seem to enjoy themselves.
Now down the road in Columbus, another wrestling camp is being held this week. Michael DeAugustino is leading the Get Wild Wrestling Camp, and DeAugustino is a two-time Division I NCAA All-American. This is a two-day camp with sessions started, and continues to run through today.
At this age, it's just mostly about like having fun at camp and also just learning the basics, because that's kind of where it's all going to start. I think a lot of these kids have only been wrestling like 2 years maybe, so it's like their first camp since because of COVID they didn't do camps, so for a lot of them this is like their first wrestling camp, so you want to make like a good experience and fun for them.
Switching to the Diamond, the Joplin Outlaws are in the middle of an 8-game road trip. They are 9-8 overall this season, and thankfully won 4 of their last 5 games. Now, Joplin was in St. Joseph yesterday evening as they faced off against the Mustangs. St. Joe scored 11 runs in 2 innings to take a 13-6 lead in the 7th. The Outlaws' Casey Yamauchi was 3 for 4 with 3 runs scored. Max Burf and Caden Bressler each had 2 RBIs, but the Mustangs put up another couple of runs to finish off the Outlaws with a final of 13-8. And the Midwest Mustangs were competing in a CMWS qualifier in Joplin this week and this coming weekend. The Mustangs won their opening game 8-0 over the Red Sox. Logan Myers pitching a complete game, and Cam Custer and Brett Sarwinski picking up 2 hits each. That is it for sports this morning. Still to come, Ukraine and Moldova are moving one step closer to achieving European Union status. We'll take a look at what's next for those 2 countries, but first, we'll get a look at our forecast and take you through the weekend when the morning news returns. We're kicking off our weather on the 7s this morning with just about 517, and we're starting with the big picture upstairs. This pesky upper level ridge is starting to regain control once again, and that's what's actually kept the bulk of any thunderstorms late last night just north of our immediate area, and they're running along a front that's actually pushing back through as mainly a warm front. However, this cold front to the north and west, that's the one that's going to finally give us a break from the heat as we wrap up the coming weekend. But here's all the rain and storms. You can see how most of it is along and north of I-70. But around here, we're trying to see if a few showers around Emporia and just to the east of Wichita, southeast of the Turnpike could clip maybe a couple of our far western counties and northern counties to get this morning started. But this is the big weather story for today, though. In the orange, northeast Oklahoma, heat advisories from 1 o'clock this afternoon until 8 o'clock this evening, because everyone goes back into the mid-90s this afternoon. But more humidity. It's going to make it feel like maybe 110 in some spots in northeast Oklahoma. At least we're looking quiet for 7th and range line. We're at 74 degrees and not much of a feels like temperature, even though dew points are certainly in the mid 60s. Everyone is in the lower to middle 70s to start this morning out. And as far as your day planner goes, maybe a random shower for our far northern and western counties this morning, and maybe a random storm late this afternoon. Otherwise, temperatures will warm up quickly. 91 by noon and pushing highs near 96. And that's just for Joplin, but everyone else is going to fare the same way. Again, partly to mostly sunny skies. That's the outside chance for a random storm during the late afternoon. But you can see how everybody goes into the mid-90s. It'll easily feel like the triple digits with the humidity back in play once again. Upper 70s, that's the best we can do to cool down for your Saturday morning. But then that front north and west will finally give us a break from the heat as we go into late Saturday night into Sunday morning. I don't think these storms will be too potent, but once that front works on through, it'll break down that ridge and take us from 98 Saturday to 83 for Sunday afternoon, lower 60s Monday and Tuesday morning, and we will enjoy lower to middle 80s before the 90s return by the middle of next week. Name, image, and likeness. This is a new way college athletes are able to make money while competing for their school, but many of them don't know how to do this. Brian Murphy talked to a Duke track star who's helping educate them.
Behind the scenes of the NIL Summit TikTok.
Duke's Emily Cole is an All-American track athlete who has been building her social media presence since she was in high school.
So this is my bestie E. We were both on Duke track together.
While growing a TikTok following that now has 7.2 million likes and more than 160,000 fans, Cole has signed NIL deals with H&R Block and Beat Elite. She also won $10,000 in a TikTok challenge. And now she's written a book set to publish in September.
I would definitely say don't be afraid to get started. No matter how few followers you have or how small you think your platform is, I definitely think that's the biggest barrier impeding people from reaching their goals and really building that audience.
That's the message Cole preached to more than 400 college athletes and administrators while on the panel at the first ever NIL Summit in Atlanta, which included sessions with several celebrity speakers.
So lucky that we're able to have all these panels and learn these different lessons about investing and building your brand. I mean, these are invaluable lessons that will pay off for the rest of our lives.
Those lessons hit home for NC State offensive lineman Tim McKay.
You know, NIL, a lot of people talk about pay to play or getting these huge mega deals, but it's really about building a brand for yourself, marketing yourself, and networking with like-minded student athletes and businesses.
UNC tight end Kamari Morales is not active on social media, but that could change after he heard the panel preach the possible financial benefits of brand building.
There's a lot of people here that's viral on TikTok, and just listening to them, they're saying like get out your comfort zone, and every individual athlete has their own brand. It's all a matter of utilizing it.
Now, student athletes did not gain the right to make money from their brands until July last year. That's when an NCAA policy change and a number of new state laws were enacted, finally allowing them to do so. That's our focus for our Something to Talk About this morning. Should student athletes be allowed to make money from their own image? Yes or no? You can certainly vote on our Insta polls. Head to KOAMNewsNow.com/vote, or you can vote through the KOAM News Now app for Apple and Android. And I believe, Tanya, this is posted on our Facebook page, and you can certainly chime in there with your thoughts. In the meantime, speaking of Tanya, she'll be back with Health Watch on the other side of the break.
Topping Health Watch this morning, a new study highlights the impact the COVID vaccine has had worldwide. Researchers at the Imperial College London found the vaccine prevented at least 14 million deaths globally in its first year of use. It's more than twice the actual number of deaths so far. According to data out of Johns Hopkins, about 6.3 million people have died from COVID across the world. The year-long Imperial College study analyzed vaccination trends and death rates in 185 countries and territories starting in December of 2020, when the vaccine first became available in Britain. By December of 2021, about 38% of the global population had been vaccinated, just short of the World Health Organization's goal of 40% vaccination rate. Study found, had that goal been met, nearly 600,000 more deaths could have been prevented. Moderna's COVID vaccination is on its way to receiving authorization for more kids. Vaccine advisors to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention voted unanimously Thursday to recommend authorizing it for people 6 to 17 years old. The shot is already authorized for adults 18 and older and children 6 months to 5 years old. The 6 to 17-year-old age group is a gap for Moderna, and right now only Pfizer's vaccine is authorized for this cohort. CDC acknowledged, like all mRNA vaccines, Moderna's carries a risk of causing certain types of heart inflammation. Those cases generally resolve on their own and are considered less severe than when the same condition results from COVID-19 infection. CDC is not currently taking up the issue of booster shots for this age group, but plans to later in the summer. Double-digit price increases at the grocery store. Food price hikes at levels not seen since the inflation-soaked 1970s. That's according to the latest Consumer Price Index. But experts say there are still ways to eat healthy without breaking the bank. Mandy Gaither has more.
Rising food costs hitting wallets hard. The latest inflation report shows the cost of groceries surged by almost 12% for the year ending in May. That's the largest year-on-year increase since 1979, and staples like eggs, fish, and meat seeing the largest jump in prices.
Right now, it's safe to say that just eating is getting more expensive, but you're still able to find some really inexpensive, healthy options.
To cut your grocery bill, registered dietitian Amy Patton says make more meatless meals. Use beans and lentils as protein instead. Cut your own produce. Pre-cut fruits and veggies are pricey. When it comes to produce, consider going frozen or get it canned.
I'd rather someone who's eating on a very tight budget go for a canned vegetable and rinse it off versus not getting a vegetable in at all.
Choose store brands. Patton says many times they're less expensive. Stick to your grocery list. Don't shop while hungry, and stock up on healthy staples that you can use in different meals.
Today, maybe you're making, a big stew or a big stir fry, and you're using a recipe that calls for a cup of celery, for example. Maybe you take that celery and you dice it up or slice it, and then you have it for snacks with hummus or peanut butter.
Patton says another way to save is to buy bulk if possible. If your store has bulk bins, she says you can save money if you bring your own container and scoop out the amount that you need. Don't bring your own scoop, but scoop out the amount you need. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
And we got a little time before we head to a break before the next half hour begins. So let's recap your forecast for today. Mild this morning, but as soon as the sun rises, we're looking at a quick warm up throughout the day. In fact, we're going back into the heat this afternoon. 91 by noon, topping out near 96 degrees with the light south breeze during the afternoon, but the humidity is being pumped back in too. That's why we're going to see partly to mostly sunny skies and maybe the slimmest chance for a random thunderstorm in the afternoon. But the numbers like this and the humidity is going to make it feel like the triple digits once again across the area. Quick look at Saturday, pushing into the upper 90s for highs, but our next stronger cold front is going to bring in a shot for some rain and thunderstorms late Saturday night into Sunday. And look at Sunday, we're highs back in the 80s, and we'll stay in the 80s through early next week. Those are numbers that we'll certainly take. Another half hour of news coming up.
Coming up, Oklahoma law enforcement arrests 3 top officials in the state's epic charter schools for multiple felony accounts.
Plus, we're getting closer to sunrise this morning, but it's going to lead to temperatures back in the heat today. We'll break down the forecast coming up.
And summertime means boating season, and we've got some tips on how you and your family can stay safe while having fun in the sun.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Nick Kelly.
Well, we've got a nice looking sunrise from our camera, Tanya, but it's a case where this, after we get past sunrise, it's going to take us right back into the heat for today. At least we're mild and quiet overall to start the morning out. But on the Skywatch storm tracker, Doug and I have been keeping an eye on that band of thunderstorms along and north of I-70 across northern Kansas this morning. The bulk of those thunderstorms, however, have been staying close to like Marysville, Concordia, and over toward Kansas City, maybe getting close to Lawrence and Topeka. But for our area, we're just trying to see if a couple of these very isolated showers, be it from about our Kansas City to about Greenwood County and maybe a couple showers around Emporia, seeing if they could skirt across our far western or far northern counties. Otherwise, everyone's pretty much dry to start the morning out, but mild. We're in the lower to middle 70s right now, but once we get past sunrise, we're going right back into the heat. We'll go 91 by noon today, pushing highs near 96. So even if we get a slight chance for a random storm, it is not going to scrub out the heat. But the front coming in Saturday and Sunday, that will, and you're going to love the numbers when we break down the 7-day coming up.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, we all are.
Cool down. All right, thanks, Nick. Oklahoma law officers arrest 3 top officials in the state's epic charter schools program on multiple felony charges. On Thursday, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation announced the arrest of epic charter school founders Ben Harris and David Cheney and former Chief Financial Officer Josh Brook. They face a slew of charges, including embezzlement of state funds, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit a felony. The OSBI says their investigation began nearly a decade ago. Investigators claim the men were involved in a scheme that cost Oklahoma taxpayers more than $22 million. Summertime means more people out on the water, but if you're heading out anytime soon, the Grand River Dam Authority has some tips to enjoy the water safely. KOAM's Bronte Sorosky was at Grand Lake and has more on these tips.
4th of July is almost upon us, and this water is soon to be filled with boaters and people looking to cool down in the water. But if you are looking to do that this holiday, there are some safety tips to keep in mind.
4th of July is our busiest time on the water. That is our busy weekend. We always see a lot more people come out that maybe haven't had a chance to come out earlier in the summer or maybe won't come out again. But certainly, yes, 4th of July is really the peak boating season on Grand Lake.
Since Memorial Day weekend, the Grand River Dam Authority police have recovered 1 body from Grand Lake and 1 from Flint Creek. It's why they're stressing boating safety as we head into summer.
Well, there are 3 things that we always stress: boat smart, boat safe, and boat sober.
Boat smart, know about the vessel you're going to be operating. Boat sober, don't drink and drive a boat. But the biggest one, boat safe. Wear a life jacket.
We stress that to everybody. Wear your life jacket. Of course, Oklahoma law requires kids a certain age to have a life jacket on, and it also requires life jackets to be in the boat for everybody. But we like to see everybody have that jacket on.
With extra boaters on the water, the GRDA is also reminding everyone to take their time and to be careful.
The lake's big enough for everybody. You know, we expect a large crowd, but it's big enough to accommodate everybody if you'll just take your time and just enjoy yourself. So always watch out for the other guy, watch your speed, and you know, make sure you're obeying the no wake signs in those areas under bridges and things like that.
In Langley, Oklahoma, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
If you do encounter an emergency on the water, call 911 or Marine Band Channel 16 on your radio. Well, parents in Webb City get a little peace of mind along with a free meal for their child. The Webb City Farmers Market is offering free meals to kids during the summer. On Thursday, the Webb City Police Department also handed out free child identification kits. The kits include forms that parents can fill out with their child's physical characteristics and fingerprints. Those forms can then be turned in to authorities if the child goes missing.
I mean, it's being offered, and I mean, like I said, hopefully you never need it and you don't want to really think about it too much, but when I saw all the things on it, it's good to do when everyone's good and happy and safe, and God forbid you need it, you have it, and do it and put it away somewhere and try not to think too hard about it, probably.
Webb City Farmers Market takes place at King Jack Park on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
All right, and we are looking at the forecast once again, and even though the sun's rising, this is going to take us right back into the heat today, I'm afraid to say. But nonetheless, we'll keep things dry for much of the day. A slim outside chance for a random storm late this afternoon. Otherwise, we'll see highs near 96. Looking dry overall this evening, but we'll only drop back into the mid to upper 70s for tomorrow morning, pushing 98. Mainly dry for Saturday, but a stronger cold front Saturday night into Sunday morning. That's our next best shot for widespread rain and storms. But more importantly, it'll drag highs back down to 83 on Sunday. Lower to middle 80s Monday and Tuesday, Tanya, with morning lows in the lower 60s. Then we'll be back near 90 by Wednesday. But you were begging for that light at the end of the tunnel. We're about approaching the end of that tunnel.
I was really rooting for us to get a full 7 day of 80s, but we'll take 4 in a row, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely take it considering how hot and muggy and it's been for a good stretch.
In the meantime, be safe this weekend for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, well, this morning we are discussing student athletes marketing their image. Name, image, likeness. Once upon a time, student athletes were unable to make money from their image, even though their schools could potentially rake in hundreds of thousands of dollars just off their name. But all of that changed in 2021 with an NCAA policy change and a number of new state laws which allowed student athletes to do so. And now some of these athletes have thrown their time and energy behind branding themselves and building a social media presence that in some cases could be worth millions of dollars. For the ones who've already achieved a lucrative status, they're showing the next generation that being a student athlete does not just mean working hard and training in your sport anymore. Now it means marketing. That brings us to our question: should student athletes be allowed to make money from their image?
It's a complicated question if you kind of think about it, because these students getting the chance to play at the collegiate level, I think the vast majority of them are getting some sort of scholarship to help pay for their school. But on the other hand, I could kind of see from their point of view, if it's your name and it's your image, I don't know, I guess I can't blame them if they want to make some money off of that.
Well, and they weren't allowed to take, a lot of times, I was a student athlete in college, and somehow I managed to do that, work out 5 hours a day of training, go to school full time, and hold a part-time job.
Yeah, I don't know how you could handle all that.
And that's tough. That's really tough to do, because a lot of times that takes away from your school studies. You go to college to study, school. So a lot of student athletes don't have time to work, therefore they have no money during school. Yes, their school's paid for, but they don't have a way to have any other financial means, and they were limited from taking money or anything from businesses and stuff, because that was illegal. If they got caught, they'd be in trouble.
That's a very valid point, and I'm sure a lot of you out there want to chime in with that as well. Maybe you agree with me or Tanya or the both of us, or somewhere meet in the middle. then we want to hear from you. You can vote with the KOAM News Now Insta poll on our website, through the KOAM app, or I think it's on our Facebook page as well, where you can chime in with your own thoughts.
And you can see the results right now. 67% of respondents are saying yes, with 33 at no, and we'll check in on those results later in the show. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, we'll meet a high school student who decided to use some downtime to start a construction company. Plus, the Taliban reaches out to the international community after a massive earthquake slams Afghanistan and takes the lives of more than 1,000 people. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping World Watch, Ukraine and Moldova appeared to be a step closer to joining the European Union. The body has approved the two countries for candidate status. The president of the European Council, Charles Michel, made the announcement yesterday. He said the approval represents what he's calling a crucial step on the path toward EU membership. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says she is confident Ukraine and Moldova would both do the homework necessary to move on to the next stage of joining the EU. Georgia was denied its request and still needs to meet a long list of conditions before officially being declared a candidate for EU membership. Ukraine applied to join the political and economic body just days after the Russian invasion in February, and the process moved at a record speed. The country's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, tweeted, "Ukraine's future is within the EU." Japan marks 77 years since the Battle of Okinawa. A commemoration ceremony was held on Thursday at the cornerstone of Peace Memorial to remember one of the bloodiest battles of World War II fought on the southern Japanese island. Japan's prime minister led a moment of silence and laid a flower on a memorial. During the service, Okinawa's governor said they will continue to offer humanitarian support for Ukraine. The cornerstone of peace was unveiled on June 23, 1995, on the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Okinawa and the end of World War II. The names of over 240,000 people who lost their lives are inscribed on the memorial. In Afghanistan, the Taliban is asking for international help after this week's catastrophic earthquake that killed at least 1,000 people. It's the deadliest quake to strike the country in 2 decades. Charlie Daggett reports on the disaster, the rescue effort, and the death toll that is likely to rise.
An orderly line of men prepare a row of graves for the victims of the earthquake. A stark contrast compared to one day earlier when rescuers were forced to dig with their bare hands in a desperate search for survivors. A lack of roads to the remote area meant shuttling the injured away by helicopter. At least 1,500 people have been injured, many left fighting for their lives. There was a rumbling and the bed began to shake, Shabir says. I'm sure 7 or 9 people from my family who were in the same room as me are dead. The earthquake struck one of the poorest regions of one of the poorest countries on the planet. Decades of conflict, government corruption, and now crippling sanctions have brought Afghanistan to its knees and left the Taliban begging the international community for help. Many aid groups fled the country after last year's Taliban takeover.
It's in a country that's already on the brink. We know that. Food security situation is where we're talking about. We're close to a famine-like situation. People are really already hanging on by a thread.
As the death toll climbs, even for thousands of survivors now made homeless and facing widespread hunger, the suffering has only begun. Charlie Daggett, CBS News, London.
That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Oklahoma law officers arrest 3 top officials in the state's EPIC charter schools program on multiple felony charges. On Thursday, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation announced the arrest of EPIC charter school founders Ben Harris and David Cheney and former Chief Financial Officer Josh Brook. They face a slew of charges, including embezzlement of state funds, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit a felony. OSBI says its investigation began nearly a decade ago. Investigators claim the men were involved in a scheme that cost Oklahoma taxpayers more than $22 million. Authorities deploy a tactical team to end a police standoff in Quapaw, Oklahoma. Marshals responded to a report of shots fired in a domestic disturbance on Wednesday. Authorities say they cornered a suspect in a home on Cayuga Street in Quapaw. And officials say after he refused to come out, a Cherokee Nation tactical team used OC gas to force him from the home. Other people inside were removed safely. Authorities have not released the name of the suspect. President Biden proposes a gas tax holiday, which would suspend the national gas tax for 3 months. According to AAA, Joplin area has the lowest average price for a gallon of gas right now in the state, $4.44 a gallon. Gas tax holiday would drop that by around 18 cents. Now, officials with MoDOT say it's too early to know if the holiday, if approved, would impact current or future projects in the state. Officials with KDOT say they are not worried. And some four-staters get a lesson on human trafficking in the workplace. The Crawford County Mental Health Center brought together area human resource professionals for Thursday's seminar. The guest speaker of the meeting was Ada Hutchcraft, a spiritual care specialist from Ascension Via Christi. The presentation stressed the importance of observable signs to look for in the workplace and stigmas the professionals should be aware of. Participants were also taught about how to approach sensitive situations involving trafficking to protect the victim and themselves. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
And for your forecast, everybody, we were mild to start the morning out, but as soon as we get past sunrise, we are going to heat up fast through the rest of the day. In fact, we'll be in the lower 80s as early as 9 o'clock this morning, and then pushing 91 by the noon hour and topping out near 96 this afternoon. Now, with a frontal boundary working through and north of the region, that might squeak out a random thunderstorm, maybe a spot or two, but the vast majority of the area, will stay dry throughout much of the day. Everyone's dry this evening, but staying warm throughout the rest of the night, even going into tomorrow morning. In fact, lows only drop back to 76 degrees, so mid to upper 70s to start your Saturday morning out. Highs near 98 with heat indices almost pushing 110 with the humidity in place as well. Now, we're dry for much of Saturday, but a stronger front coming our way Saturday night into Sunday morning. That's going to bring a better shot for some widespread rain and storms. Some of them could be on the strong side with some heavy rainfall, but mainly that front's job is to cool us down for early next week. In fact, we'll be at 83 Sunday, 82 Monday, back into the mid-80s on Tuesday, but sticking with Doug's pattern, we'll see the heat start to build back in on Wednesday.
A high school teen started up his own construction company to beat the pandemic boredom, and now 2 years later, that company has blossomed into a successful company. Courtney Godfrey has more.
Another project almost complete, with dozens more right behind it. And the guy running it all is barely out of high school.
You go grab a set of nails from the toolbox.
Caden Fritz is Fritz Construction, a company he started at the end of his sophomore year out of pandemic boredom.
I started off doing pressure washing thinking I'd make a few $100 to be able to spend, and it turned into slowly growing bigger and bigger.
The company has grown so big, the 18-year-old has 30 to 50 people working at jobs across the metro at any given time. Most of them his Edina hockey teammates.
He likes to boss us around, so things can get a little testy occasionally because we don't want to listen to one of our buddies.
And because none of them have ever worked in construction before, their labor comes at a steal.
We knew nothing before Caden taught us everything, so it works out.
But starting a business hasn't come without its challenges. Fritz learning very quickly that this isn't child's play, even getting sued last year by an unsatisfied customer, saying that his parents, who work in the corporate world, haven't helped him one bit.
My parents didn't give me $1. I saved up the first $4,000 I had to buy a work truck. I had to be the cheapest bidder at the start, and I lost money on a lot of jobs to get my name out there and prove that we're a reputable company and that we can handle these type of jobs, because most people think high school kids certainly couldn't handle these type of jobs, so it took a while to build a reputation.
Now the teen preparing to start at St. Thomas in the fall, where he'll be studying entrepreneurship on a full-ride scholarship. still bidding jobs in between classes.
And as if Caden wasn't busy enough going on, he's also working towards his peace officer's license with hopes of becoming a part-time Ramsey County Water Patrol officer. Well, he doesn't know the future of Fritz Construction post-college graduation. His friends say there's no doubt Caden will always be running one business or another. We'll be right back with another look at your forecast after this.
All right, another check of your forecast this morning. I'm starting out with the surface map because along an advancing warm front, that's directing the bulk of any thunderstorm chances early this morning, mainly from the Kansas City area back to the north and west across northern Kansas. But we're still waiting to see if a couple of straggling showers working away from the Kansas Turnpike could try to clip our far western and northern counties. Otherwise, the vast majority of us are starting off on a dry note this morning, coming up on the 6 o'clock hour. But you see those counties in northeast Oklahoma highlighted with the heat advisory. That's because we're all going back into the mid 90s and even upper 90s for northeast Oklahoma this afternoon, with the humidity right in tow, pushing it well into the triple digits. For now, we're seeing mainly lower to middle 70s, most spots between 70 and 75 this morning. But once we see that sun fully rise, we're going to waste no time warming up. Even if we get a slimmest chance of a random thunderstorm late this afternoon, it's going to be hot with 91 degrees by noon and Joplin topping out near 96. In fact, everybody will be easily in the lower 90s to start the afternoon out. Mid to upper 90s for your Friday afternoon, this afternoon, quite frankly. Dry for much of Saturday, but pushing into the upper 90s. But look at Saturday night and Sunday morning. A stronger front with some more thunderstorm chances, but more importantly, knocking us back into the 80s early next week. More news coming up.
Coming up, authorities in Quapaw, Oklahoma deploy a tactical team to end a standoff.
We're mild this morning, but that rising sun you see before your eyes is going to send us right back into the heat today. Your first look at the forecast coming up.
And we take a look at how pausing the federal gas tax would affect the local area.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's go to meteorologist Nick Kelly.
It's not looking bad when you look outside, Tanya, this morning, but sometimes a summer sunrise means we're just ready to race right back into the heat, especially with the way this afternoon is looking. But to the north and west, though, maybe obscured sunshine because of all the cloud cover and even some thunderstorms ongoing from the northwestern sides of the KC Metro, arcing back through northeastern Kansas, probably around Washington, Kansas, Sabetha, and even getting close to St. Joseph. Around here, though, we do have a couple showers trying to hold together as they work in the parts of Greenwood County, Elk County, and maybe a couple more showers trying to work over the turnpike near Emporia. They might have a chance of clipping our far western and northern counties early this morning, but the vast majority of us will be dry to get the morning drive going. We're mild this morning, sure, lower to middle 70s abound, but once we see that sun continue to rise, it's going to push us into the lower 80s by 9 a.m., 91 by noon. Even if we get a random thunderstorm this afternoon, Tanya, it's going to be hot today with highs near 96. Heat indices back above 100. We got to do it again tomorrow, but a welcome break from the heat is here before you know it. We'll show you in the 7-day coming up.
I'm looking forward to that cool front coming through.
I am too.
All right, thanks, Nick. Well, authorities deploy a tactical team to end a police standoff in Quapaw, Oklahoma. Marshals responded to a report of shots fired in a domestic disturbance on Wednesday. Authorities say they cornered a suspect in a home on Cayuga Street in Quapaw. Officials say after the man refused to come out, a Cherokee Nation tactical team used OC gas to force him from the home. Other people inside were removed safely. Authorities have not released the name of the suspect. Oklahoma law officers arrest top officials in the state's EPIC charter schools program on multiple felony charges. On Thursday, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation announced the arrest of EPIC charter school founders Ben Harris and David Cheney and former chief financial officer Josh Brook. They face a slew of charges, including embezzlement of state funds, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit a felony. The OSBI says their investigation began nearly a decade ago. Investigators claim the men were involved in a scheme that cost Oklahoma taxpayers more than $22 million. Missouri American Water lifts a precautionary boil water advisory that was issued for around 150 customers in South Joplin. was issued after a water main break caused water pressure to drop in the affected area. Tests have confirmed the water is safe. Federal lawsuit challenges a decades-old Missouri law that limits the extent to which volunteers can provide ballot booth help to people who have disabilities or are unable to read or write. The lawsuit targets a 1977 Missouri law that says people can only provide voting assistance to one other person per election, unless they are election judges or immediate family members. The suit says the law violates the Federal Voting Rights Act. A similar lawsuit is pending against an Arkansas law. Old Missouri Bank and the Carthage Chamber of Commerce hold groundbreaking ceremony to mark the construction of a new bank. It'll be next door to the old one, and with a bigger bank, they'll be adding at least 2 additional positions.
They are unique in every way possible, and we're delighted that we're able to share this moment with them as they begin construction on their new building.
They're looking for the construction to be completed next summer. Some 4-staters get a lesson on human trafficking in the workplace. The Crawford County Mental Health Center brought together area human resource professionals for Thursday's seminar. Guest speaker of the meeting was Ada Hutchcraft, a spiritual care specialist from Ascension Via Christi. The presentation stressed the importance of observable signs to look for in the workplace and stigmas the professionals should be aware of.
So there's a high likelihood that at some point all of us are going to intersect with someone who is trafficked, and we won't see it unless we have the red flags in our thoughts, and we also won't respond unless we have compassion for the issue itself.
Participants were also taught about how to approach sensitive situations involving trafficking to protect the survivor and themselves. President Biden is proposing a gas tax holiday, which would suspend the national gas tax for 3 months. According to AAA, the Joplin area has the lowest average price for a gallon of gas right now in the state at $4.44 a gallon. The gas tax holiday would drop that by around 18 cents. Officials with MoDOT say it's too early to know if the holiday, if approved, would impact current or future projects in the state. Officials with KDOT say they are not worried.
Our impression is that the revenues coming from the federal government towards our budget would not, even if reduced some, would not be significant enough to impact our overall budget or our projects that are now in process.
Later in the show, we're going to hear more on the potential impact and how local senators feel about the issue. Today, back in 1973, the upstairs lounge experiences an arson attack, an arson fire at the upstairs lounge. It's a popular gathering spot for New Orleans LGBTQ community, in the French Quarter resulted in 32 deaths and at least 15 injuries. At the time, it was the deadliest known attack at a gay club in American history. The fire's official cause was undetermined, and no one was ever arrested for the crime. The rapidly moving fire began in a second-floor lounge, and it caused 15 people to leap from the second floor of the club. All of them survived. In 2016, 49 people were murdered at the Pulse Club in Orlando, Florida. It became the deadliest attack at a gay club in American history. Sad day.
Yeah.
Sure. Check out the forecast.
Okay, we are looking okay to start the morning out overall. It's kind of warm, if not certainly mild this morning, but once we get past sunrise, we're going to waste no time heating up. There's no other way to say it. 91 by noon. We'll push highs near 96 later this afternoon, with maybe a slimmest chance of an outside storm this afternoon. We're just going to stay flat out warm tonight into Saturday morning, with lows only dropping back to 76. 98 for a hazy, hot, and humid Saturday afternoon, with heat indices pushing almost 110 in some spots, but a stronger cold front gives us a better shot for some more scattered, if not widespread storms Saturday night into Sunday morning. The main job of that front, though, it'll knock highs back into the lower 80s Sunday, 60 Monday morning, highs are 82, a good stretch of 80s, Tanya, and goodness knows we deserve it.
All right, yeah, we do. I'm ready for that cool down, that's for sure. All right, thanks, Nick. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, we've got a sneak peek of a musical that takes you to a pineapple under the sea. Yes, I said it. Plus, new legislation from the Senate committee will allow intelligence agencies to look into people who've smoked pot. And new sensor helps detect whiplash. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning, the U.S. Senate successfully passes a major bipartisan gun safety bill Thursday night for the first time in decades. Passing on a final vote of 65-33, the bill represents a significant bipartisan breakthrough on one of the most divisive policy issues in American politics. 15 Republican senators, including Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, supported the initiative, which includes millions of dollars for mental health, school safety, and crisis intervention programs. It also changes the process for buying a gun for people ages 18 to 21. The package represents the most significant federal legislation to address gun violence since the 1994 assault weapons ban, which expired after 10 years. Next, the bill goes to the House for a vote before it can be sent to President Joe Biden to be signed into law. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the bill will be brought to the floor this morning. The provision. A new provision would bar intelligence agencies from discriminating against applicants based solely on past use of marijuana. This new bill was unanimously approved on Wednesday, but still needs a full Senate vote. Marijuana is now legal for recreational purposes in 19 states and in Washington, D.C. National security officials have long said the lifetime prohibition on marijuana use has limited the pool of qualified candidates for key roles. This has become even more true as attracting and retaining tech and cybersecurity talent has increasingly become a priority. It comes after the FBI quietly loosens its restrictions on marijuana use last year. One man is dead and another injured after a psychiatric patient stabbed 2 people at a Las Vegas hospital Thursday morning. Police say the incident at University Medical Center happened in the emergency room area. Both victims were men in their 20s and were patients at the hospital. The suspect, a male patient in his 40s, is in custody. Police say the victim who died was in soft restraints at the time of the attack. Second victim was unrestrained and was unable to run away from the suspect. It's unclear how the suspect was able to get a hold of a knife. Police are currently investigating. That's a look at today's top national stories. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm joined this morning by 2 theater students who are putting together a production of SpongeBob. Super excited about this. We have Amelia Campbell and Britton, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name, but how do you say your last name?
Sadlowski.
Sadlowski.
Yes.
All right, that's awesome. So you go to school in Joplin,
Yes.
and you go to school in Mount Vernon.
Yes.
And you're both going to be juniors this year, part of the summer program here in Joplin, putting together this play. How much fun has it been so far?
It's been an absolutely phenomenal experience.
It's been a blast, yeah.
It's been really, really fun just getting to be around people who like genuinely love doing what they're doing, and everybody who has like a same goal of trying to create like a really, really beautiful product. Because
Okay.
it's a lot of hard work.
So Amelia, you're playing the role of SpongeBob
Yes.
SquarePants. You told me that he was one of your idols growing up. You watched him a lot.
yeah.
So how cool was it when you found out you got cast as SpongeBob?
I screamed so loud. I was so excited just to be able to like put my own twist on the character that everyone knows and loves is so much fun, and I just have a great time doing it.
And you get to live in a pineapple under the sea.
It's the best.
Who would have thought, right?
Who would have thought?
Of course, and Britton, you're playing the role of Squidward.
Yes. It's been an absolutely phenomenal experience. It's probably one of my favorite roles I've ever played. I mean, I've been in theater for forever, and now playing Squidward, you know, just seeing, like, growing up with the character and now fully getting to live it out, it's kind of like a dream come true.
Okay, so would you say this is a family-friendly production of SpongeBob?
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay, so,
Very.
because I know a lot of kids watch it, so they can come out this Friday and Saturday and watch the show. Why don't you give me a brief synopsis of what the storyline's about?
So basically, it's a regular, typical Bikini Bottom day, and it starts out fine, and then the mayor announces that there's been a volcanic eruption. Well, there's going to be. And so, like, boulders are falling, chaos is happening, and we only have, like, 36 hours to change this. And so SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy put together a team to, solve this, all while Squidward is doing a benefit concert to try to raise money
to raise money for an escape pod.
Yes, to
Okay.
escape Bikini Bottom.
Okay, so there's a lot of action going on.
Oh, yeah.
You've been presented a problem and are dealt with it, and
It's
now
like
you
the
have to figure out how to
apocalypse.
solve it. Yeah. So that's exciting.
Oh, yeah.
So it has a good theme that's presenting
Yes.
to the kids too.
It's really
A
fun.
good like theme of togetherness and like, you know, bringing people together to try and solve an issue.
That's awesome. So how do you put yourself into the role of a traditionally cartoon character?
Ooh, this one's kind of hard. It's definitely helpful to grow up watching it, and since I had watched SpongeBob for so long, it wasn't very unfamiliar to me what I should be doing, but it definitely took a lot of effort to try to dehumanize kind of what's going on with the character and kind of be more spongy, and it's kind of hard.
So how do you be more spongy?
It's a lot of in the way you move and you act. He acts a very certain way, and it's kind of just like recreating that, but making it a little bit more human, so it isn't just full sponge.
That's awesome.
Yes.
And what about Squidward?
And so my entire thing with it is cartoons are very, very over the top, very, very big because, you know, their audience is children. And so whenever I came into this, I was just like, do I want to make Squidward my own or do I want to keep it stereotypical just because, you know, as an actor, you're always posed with that question. And given such an iconic character,
Definitely.
you have to figure out.
They're going to recognize him.
Yeah. And so if you do something wrong or like, you know, do like a reference wrong, they're going to be like, oh, that's not right. And so walking into this, I was just like, you know, I'm going to make this role my own, but enough stereotypical to people to where they still know the character that they know and love.
Yeah. I recognize it. Yeah. So give me the show details. What time do doors open? What time curtain?
Doors open at 6:30, and it's June 24th and 25th at 7 p.m. at the Joplin High School Performing Arts Center. And you can buy tickets online or you can buy them at the door.
I recommend if you're buying at the door to come at 6:30 instead of like 6:55 because tons
There's
of seats
only
will be
two
taken.
shows, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you guys have students from 5 different schools participating. If you guys don't mind sticking around, I want to talk about this summer program that you guys are involved in and how that's all working out.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. We'll be right
you.
back. Topping Health Watch this morning, vaccine boosters are proving to be an important weapon against the pandemic. A study in Israel found a 4th dose of the Pfizer vaccine gave high protection against COVID hospitalizations and deaths for people in long-term care facilities. But in the midst of the Omicron surge, it offered just modest protection against infection. Abbott Laboratories says there's no evidence that its baby formula is connected to the latest report of an infant death in January. Company said it would continue to investigate if more information becomes available after the FDA announced the start of a new probe. Abbott recalled its products earlier this year because of contamination, leading to a nationwide shortage. And this little sensor worn on the back of the neck could be helpful in detecting whiplash during high-impact sports. The patch produces an electrical signal that measures sudden neck strain. Study and scientific reports found the device could be further developed to detect concussions. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
And another look at our forecast. We'll actually start out with a quick look at temperatures this morning. We are in the lower to middle 70s across much of the area, maybe for Scott and Nevada flirting with the upper 60s. But in general, we're getting closer to sunrise officially, everybody, and that rising sun will send us back into the heat today. 91 by noon, highs near 96, with maybe the slimmest chance of an afternoon storm. But the extended forecast has us pushing into the upper 90s on Saturday. Hazy, hot, and humid. It'll feel like 110 at worst during Saturday afternoon, but a stronger front Saturday night, Sunday morning. Better thunderstorm chances we'll keep an eye on, but more importantly, knocking us back into the lower to middle 80s for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of next week, and then back near 90 by Wednesday.
Coming up, authorities in Quapaw, Oklahoma deploy a tactical team to end a standoff.
Plus, it sure looks like a nice sunrise on this Friday morning, but the rising sun will send us back into the heat today. Forecast coming up.
And we take a look at how pausing the federal gas tax would affect the local area.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:26. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a little bit. But first, let's go to meteorologist Nick Kelly.
Not a lot to keep an eye on this morning, Tanya, thankfully, so it's always nice if we can get things off on a quiet note on the morning around here, especially on a Friday morning. But this is kind of deceiving, even though it looks nice from 7th and Rangeline. Looking back toward the eastern horizon with that rising sun, it's going to take us right back into the heat today. Off to the north and west, though, we've been keeping an eye throughout the course of the night and very early this morning on the band of rain and thunderstorms working across mainly northern Kansas along the north of the I-70 corridor. Not much to show around here per se, with some clouds otherwise, but I want to loop the radar network close up because any showers that have been trying to come away from the Kansas Turnpike and working into our far western and northern counties, they're really having a tough time making it any farther than, let's say, maybe Yates Center at the closest. So most of us are going to stay dry this morning, but everyone's mild this morning. Lower to middle 70s across the board. Maybe a slim chance for a random storm this afternoon, but that rising sun is going to make us soar into the lower 80s by 9 a.m., 91 by noon, pushing highs here 96. It's going to be hot and humid this afternoon, Tanya. Hot and humid again tomorrow, but thankfully a break from the heat, something we've been longing for. It's on the way. We'll break that down for everybody coming up.
All right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that break. Looking forward to hearing more about it, too.
I'm certainly looking forward to it, too.
All right. Thanks, Dick. Oklahoma law officers arrest top officials in the state's EPIC Charter Schools program on multiple felony charges. On Thursday, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation announced the arrest of EPIC Charter School founders Ben Harris and David Cheney and former Chief Financial Officer Josh Brook. They face a slew of charges, including embezzlement of state funds, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit a felony. The OSBI says its investigation began nearly a decade ago. Investigators claim the men were involved in a scheme that cost Oklahoma taxpayers more than $22 million. And authorities deploy a tactical team to end a police standoff in Quapaw, Oklahoma. Marshals responded to a report of shots fired in a domestic disturbance on Wednesday. Authorities say they cornered a suspect in a home on Cayuga Street in Quapaw. Officials say after he refused to come out, a Cherokee Nation tactical team used OC gas to force him from the home. Other people inside were removed safely. Authorities have not released the name of the suspect. Missouri American Water lifts a precautionary boil water advisory that was issued for around 150 customers in South Joplin. It was issued after a water main break caused water pressure to drop in the affected area. Tests have confirmed the water is safe. Some four-staters get a lesson on human trafficking in the workplace. The Crawford County Mental Health Center brought together area human resource professionals for Thursday's seminar. Guest speaker of the meeting was Ada Hutchcraft, a spiritual care specialist from Ascension Via Christi. Presentation stressed the importance of observable signs to look for in the workplace and stigmas the professionals should be aware of.
In the hospital, you would automatically just basically assume everyone coming in that was beat up or something like that would be involved in domestic violence. And after today, that's definitely not the case. And it's going to allow me to kind of look more into that and see the sides of human trafficking and the difference and how to start recognizing those differences.
Participants were also taught about how to approach sensitive situations involving trafficking to protect the victim and themselves. Old Missouri Bank and the Carthage Chamber of Commerce hold a groundbreaking ceremony for the start of a new bank. The new bank will be located right next to the old one, and with a bigger bank, they'll be adding at least 2 additional positions.
We've just been blown away by the support that customers and the community have given us, and so we're very excited to be working on our permanent facility here to be able to assist customers well into the future.
They're looking for the construction to be completed next summer. President Biden is proposing a 3-month federal gas tax holiday. KOAM's Chris Warner spoke with local officials and representatives about the proposal.
The proposal would shave around 18 cents off the cost of gas for unleaded fuel and about a quarter off for diesel fuel. The federal gas tax pays for about 25% of state highway projects. If it were eliminated for 3 months, that's 3 months of lost revenue. Despite that, Steve Hale with KDOT says they're not concerned.
Our impression is that the revenues coming from the federal government towards our budget would not, even if reduced some, would not be significant enough to impact our overall budget or our projects that are now in process.
Hale says the funds they do receive are key to projects in the state.
Certainly, as we look for funding as projects move into our pipeline as part of our Eisenhower Legacy Transportation Program. Those federal funds are a component of our long-range planning. So certainly we look at those, and they're very important to our infrastructure.
On the Missouri side, officials with MoDOT tell us it's too early to know if the holiday would have an impact on state projects. We spoke with Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, who says the tax holiday is little more than a gimmick and won't really ease the pain at the pump.
I mean, if you look at, filling up an F-150, for example, you'd get out of this over the whatever, 2 or 3 months it would last, you'd save about $30 or something. I mean, it's just, come on, it's insulting. It's really insulting. That's why I say, if he's serious about this, make it permanent. Make it permanent.
Senator Hawley says he would support a permanent tax cut and believes there's a way to pay for that cut.
I would support a permanent gas tax cut. And the way to pay for that would be to put a tariff on Chinese energy production, on Chinese solar panels and wind turbines and batteries. So if he were serious, he would open up American energy production and he would cut the gas tax permanently and tariff our competitors. But he's not going to do that.
I'm Chris Warner for KOAM News.
According to AAA, the Joplin area has the lowest average gas price in Missouri at $4.44 a gallon for regular unleaded. Today, back in 1997, the U.S. Air Force reports on Roswell. U.S. Air Force officials released a 231-page report dismissing long-standing claims of an alien spacecraft crash in Roswell, New Mexico, almost 50 years earlier. Public interest in unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, began to flourish in the 1940s when developments in space travel and the dawn of the atomic age turned their attention to the skies. The town of Roswell, located near the Pecos River in southeastern New Mexico, became a magnet for UFO believers due to strange events early in July of 1947. That's when ranch foreman W.W. Brazel found a strange, shiny material scattered over some of his land. He turned the material over to the sheriff, who passed it on to authorities at the nearby Air Force Base. On July 8th, Air Force officials announced they'd recovered the wreckage of a flying disc. The local newspaper put the story on its front page, which launched Roswell into the spotlight of the public's UFO fascination. And now the government is doing more with, what's the other term for unidentified flying objects? There's another one that we've been talking about too. I can't remember what it is.
I just
acronym.
always assumed it's UFOs.
Yeah, there's
or
a
like
similar acronym.
Unmanned? Or I can't think of it.
Do anyone in the control room remember?
I think
It's something like that. But like, they've released reports on it. They're doing more.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I'm sure they've got a handle on that science. And my science is weather. That's something I've got a good handle on. I just wish I brought you a cooler forecast for today, but Mother Nature's not cooperating. We'll go into the mid-90s this afternoon, but a quick look at the 7-day, though, shows us that after we hit 98 tomorrow, a stronger front with thunderstorm chances more likely Saturday night into Sunday morning. It's going to drag us back into the lower 80s for highs early next week and morning lows in the lower 60s Monday and Tuesday.
That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, Juul is now banned by the FDA. We'll have the details. Plus, student athletes are now able to earn money from their likeness thanks to a change made by the NCAA in 2021. This leads us to our something to talk about. We're asking, should student athletes be allowed to make money from their image? We want your opinion. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says tackling inflation is his #1 priority, but he admits raising interest rates too quickly could trigger a recession. Testifying before Congress for a second straight day on Thursday, Powell said higher rates are likely to remain in place until there's clear evidence that consumer prices are coming down. The Food and Drug Administration is banning all sales of Juul e-cigarettes. The decision followed a 2-year investigation by the agency. FDA said Juul failed to prove that its vaping products help people stop smoking regular cigarettes. Juul says it will appeal the decision. Another round of layoffs hits Netflix. Yesterday, the video streaming giant let go of roughly 300 staff members, about 3% of its workforce. More than 200 of the positions were based in the U.S. Netflix laid off 150 employees last month, citing reduced revenue growth. The company says it lost 200,000 subscribers during the year's first quarter. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Nick for our Something to Talk About.
And it's an intriguing something to talk about this morning, Tanya. Student athletes marketing their image. We're talking about name, image, and of course their likeness. Now, once upon a time, student athletes were not able to make money from their image, even though their schools could potentially rake in hundreds of thousands of dollars off their name. But all of that changed in 2021 with an NCAA policy change and a number of new state laws, which allows student athletes to do so. Now, some of these athletes have thrown their time and energy behind branding themselves and building their social media presence that in some cases could be worth millions of dollars. For the ones who have already achieved the lucrative status, they're showing the next generation that being a student athlete doesn't just mean working hard and training in your sport anymore. Now it means marketing. So that takes us to our Something to Talk About this morning. Our question, should student athletes be allowed to make money from their image? We can see from the results, not a 50-50 split, but the majority, 60% saying yes, 40% saying no. And we still want to hear from you. You can chime in voting on our poll. You're going to KOAMNewsNow.com/Instapoll or by going to our KOAM News Now app on the Apple and Android. Not to mention it's on our Facebook page. You can chime in with your own comments on there. Now, a preview of what's coming up on CBS Mornings.
Hello to you, I'm Gail King. Coming right up on CBS Mornings, country music superstar, that's Luke Combs, talks to Anthony Mason about his new album. It's called Growing Up, and his record-breaking success. He is killing it. That's coming right up on CBS Mornings.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, second-class petty officer Rome Stevens. Missouri native, served from 1943 to 1945 in the Atlantic Ocean as a torpedo man during the Second World War. To second-class petty officer Rome Stevens, we thank you, today's four-state hero.
All right, let's kick off birthdays this morning. We're starting young with Nolan Kennan out of Nevada, turning 9 this go-around. Happy birthday, Nolan.
And down in Riverton, Caden Quick is celebrating birthday number 14 this year. And look at that catch there, Nick. Nice job, Caden.
Certainly a lot better than I would ever do. Moving on now to Girard, we've got Seth Wilson turning 15 this go-around with man's best friend right at his side.
I know, that's a great picture there, Seth. And his dog. All right, and Sweet 16 for Serena Kerr. And that's a really interesting image behind her. It looks like a tube of something that's coming out.
Maybe that's toothpaste, I don't know.
Yeah, it's green though.
I don't know if I can't think of green toothpaste offhand.
I'm curious to find out where that is. Let us know, Serena is 16 this year in Chanute with birthday love coming from Mom, Dad, and Danielle.
Moving on, 21 this go around for AJ Hagerman. It's a happy birthday, not just from us, but actually his birthday will be on Sunday, but certainly with love from Mom and Nana.
Yeah. And in Pittsburgh, Shannon Beasley turned in 23 years old this year. Hope you have a wonderful day, Shannon.
And with this next photo, we're going to focus on the guy on the left. Still, I think, photobombing the baby's picture there. That would be Dakota Farron, turning 23 out of Parsons. Happy birthday, Dakota.
Happy birthday, Dakota. And let's see, Hillary Evans there on the left as well. She's turning 37 in Columbus.
And staying in Columbus, Miss Karen Martin, or Mrs., I should say, Karen Martin, turning 57 out of Columbus. We'll say Mrs. because your husband Steve wants to make sure you get a happy birthday this go around.
All right, and in Baxter Springs, John Tessman celebrates birthday number 65, and that's him on the right.
And down the road in Crestline, a happy birthday to Miss Carol Phelps, who says she's turning 80, but she does not look that
old. No, she does not.
No, she does not. Happy birthday, Miss Carol.
Happy birthday, Miss Carol. And a happy birthday to one of our Minute four-state heroes. We thank you for your service. What an awesome picture there of Kenneth Lawler, who's now 89 years old. Happy birthday, Kenneth.
And thank you for your service, sir. Moving on to our first anniversary on the list, Mark and Terry Thompson out of Pittsburgh, 39 years together, and here's to many more for you two.
All right, lovely picture there. And let's see, our birthday list goes on. We've got Jim Harvey and Arma, happy birthday to you. And in the bus, that's where the party's at for Louise Hart and Zach Miller, happy birthday.
We got Janice Kellerman out of Iola getting a birthday this weekend. Happy birthday. And we also have out of Lamar, Jerry Harris turning 62 with this trip around the sun. And we have an anniversary yesterday, but still nonetheless, happy 30th to Wayne and Paula Hutchison.
They'll be celebrating all weekend long.
Absolutely.
And in Carterville, George Buckner turns 13 years old, and Vicki Kennedy celebrating the big 5-0 this weekend in Pittsburgh.
That's all we got on our list for today, but if you want a birthday anniversary shout out, let us know. Birthdays at KOAMTV.com or birthdays at KOAMNewsNow.com. That's the email to send it all to. And Tanya, that's not quite it they can do on our site as well.
Yeah, they can also sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club, and once they do, they'll be eligible for special deals from local businesses. All you have to do is go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
All right, and coming up on the morning news on Fox 14 at the top of the hour, we will meet a hawk who, instead of being eaten by an eagle, is adopted by it instead. We'll have this story, so be sure you switch over with us at 7 o'clock. In the meantime, though, let's get to your forecast. I want to start out with the big view at the jet stream level because this stubborn upper level ridge is going to make sure that we kick off this weekend on a hot note before it buckles down late this weekend, and that will be because this cold front to the north and west, that's what's going to be able to squash out the heat as we go into early next week. In the short term, though, big storms still trying to unfold across Kansas City metro, northward and across northern Kansas. But around here, we're just waiting to see if we can get at least a couple of these showers away from the turnpike into at least parts of southeast Kansas. But a lot of us dry this morning. We'll look at the heat advisories back in northeast Oklahoma until we hit 8 o'clock this evening. That's because the rising sun will take us from 73 right now at Joplin to everybody else in the lower to middle 70s. Right into the heat throughout the course of the day. 91 by noon with highs topping out near 96. We can't rule out a stray storm. We got another hot day tomorrow to watch, but you're going to really like what that cold front from the northwest will do when we show you the 7-day forecast when we come back.
That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Oklahoma law officers arrest top officials in the state's EPIC charter schools program on multiple felony charges. On Thursday, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation announced the arrest of EPIC charter school founders Ben Harris and David Cheney and former chief financial officer Josh Brook. They face a slew of charges, including embezzlement of state funds, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit a felony. OSBI says its investigation began nearly a decade ago. Investigators claim the men were involved in a scheme that cost Oklahoma taxpayers more than $22 million. Authorities deploy a tactical team to end a police standoff in Quapaw, Oklahoma. Marshals responded to a report of shots fired in a domestic disturbance on Wednesday. Authorities say they cornered a suspect in a home on Cayuga Street in Quapaw. Officials say after he refused to come out, a Cherokee Nation tactical team used OC gas to force him from the home. Other people inside were removed safely. Authorities have not released the name of the suspect. President Biden is proposing a gas tax holiday, which would suspend the national gas tax for 3 months. According to AAA, the Joplin area has the lowest average price for a gallon of gas right now in the state at $4.44 a gallon. Gas tax holiday would drop that by around 18 cents. Officials with MoDOT say it's too early to know if the holiday, if approved, would impact current or future projects in the state. Some 4-staters get a lesson on human trafficking in the workplace. The Crawford County Mental Health Center brought together area human resource professionals for Thursday's seminar. The guest speaker of the meeting, Ada Hutchcraft, a spiritual care specialist from Ascension Via Christi. Presentations stress the importance of observable signs to look for in the workplace and stigmas that professionals should be aware of. Participants were also taught about how to approach sensitive situations involving trafficking to protect the victim and themselves. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Let's look at the forecast. We'll start it with a look at the future track here. Everyone's just going to be hot and humid today, no doubt about it. Mid-90s across much of the area. Heat indices back in the triple digits. Staying quiet for tonight, but quite warm in the middle to upper 70s. Dry for much of Saturday, but you see how we push into the upper 90s, maybe a couple spots near 100, but a stronger front. Look at what it does. It wants to give us a chance for some more widespread or at least more scattered storms Saturday night into Sunday morning. Then behind that front, looking a lot better temperature-wise early next week. 83 on Sunday, lower 60s Monday and Tuesday morning, and highs lower to middle 80s. That is a nice break from the heat. Even though it might not be a long break from the heat, we'll certainly take it, Tanya.
All right. I'll take it, that's for sure. Need that break.
Yes, we do.
Well, coming up today at noon, we're making German potato salad in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Hopefully it's not mayonnaise-based. I don't like that type of potato salad.
Oh, not German salad. No.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds interesting.
You'll like it.
All right, but the morning news will continue right here on KOAM with CBS Mornings. Actually ahead, the meet 89-year-old Emily Meggett, who just published her first cookbook, and she's not slowing down, and how her recipes reflect the culture of her ancestors.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And this morning we go back to Bikini Bottom to a pineapple under the sea to get a few more details on this upcoming musical and learn about the Joplin Summer Theater program.
Plus, it is Friday. That means we've got Game On, and this week it's about the music of video games. That's certainly going to be interesting, at least for me anyway. But be sure you stick with us. We'll kick things off in a few minutes as we continue on Fox 14 at 7 o'clock.
And we'll do it again today at noon.